Hello everyone, welcome to the first meetup of Comet Romania.
Hello everyone, my name is Radu. I've been working as a QA for almost 10 years now, and I've been working as a software QA for XTF for almost 5 years. I'd like to start off by showing what is QA at its core, and I'll try to open a small window into the field of quality assurance, to say so, and hopefully, I don't know if you have any questions or if you had any questions regarding this field, this will answer them. I personally like to think of QA is as first and foremost the domain of a skeptic. I don't want to go into actual definitions and Wikipedia stuff because we live in the age of podcasts, and personal takes are much more hotter nowadays than definitions and static stuff. So this is just pretty much my own opinions based on my experience. And I was saying that we have to be skeptics because in this field you have to constantly be a skeptic in order to perform good. Your brain needs to process a lot of information constantly without having to get bored, because it does get pretty repetitive. And if you keep being a skeptic, you'll ask yourself a ton of different questions that might lead to a ton of different results that you didn't expect before. This skepticism part was actually what made me choose the QA field, because I was pretty much like 99% of people that worked in gaming. I was an avid gamer. I really liked video games, and I was used to them from a pretty young age. I think I was 8 years old when I first had my video game console. And coming to work as a game tester was pretty much a dream come true. But I didn't have any disillusion with this field, or I wasn't in love with it, to say so. I knew that pretty much it wasn't going to be very rewarding, to say so, from a monetary perspective, but it was going to fuel my passion for a few years at least, and it felt like a really great opportunity. So, quality assurance at its core. I personally think that at its core, QA is about delivering results. It's like a simple equation. You take a product, you set it against its set parameters, then against uh, parameters of your own, to say so. And that's the part where you get creative. In order to properly test the game, you first have to establish that it works as the developer intended it to work, which is not too simple. This was very much the biggest part, because as anyone who has played a game before, especially like a AAA title or something that's really big, um, you'll know how huge they are and how much stuff there's involved in a game. And to be honest, yes, the most repetitive and the most annoying part was testing the actual stuff from the game, the test cases that our leads provided, and then getting creative, which was on your own spare time, to say so. If you wanted to get creative while testing a game, you had to do it after you finished your tests. And game testing was very similar to an assembly line because of the product's nature. Being a huge game meant that it was made of a lot of small parts that had to go well, and you had to give each tester a specific part of the game to test. and gather the results and move on to a different game area the next day. And you had to do this day after day after day. And testing games meant checking the game's rules work perfectly as they are specified to. For example, your character arrives at a location, receives a quest from the innkeep after talking to him, and afterwards trying to see if those rules that the developer imposed could be bent and if I could break them somehow. Like, what if my character talks to someone else after I go into that inn and not the innkeeper? What if I kill the innkeeper? What if I kill someone before I talk to the innkeeper? Will he still want to talk to me? Stuff like that. I know it sounds a bit absurd, but it's pretty much like that old joke that I've seen circulating on the internet for about, I don't know, 10 years now, which goes: a tester walks into a bar and orders a beer, orders 10,000 beers, orders a lizard, sets the bar on fire, then goes away. It's very much like this. You have to get as creative and as crazy as possible. Um, uh, for example, one of my personal best achievements while working as a game tester for a major company. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Sims 4 game. I was a tester on that project, and at one time, bending the rules of the game, I managed to make a pregnant man, which basically a pregnant man at that time was a very big legal issue, and they were very amused and happy at the same time that people go creative and that people try to come up with stuff like that. Um, I'd have to say that I welcomed this career path because it rewarded my creativity, and at the time where I had a lot of energy for this stuff, I also made a lot of friends and a lot of acquaintances, people that really stuck over the years. And this is in no small part due to the fact that pretty much everyone working there was on the same page, was thinking the same, and we had similar passions, we had similar mentalities and similar ways of doing things. Plus, the work was pretty neat most of the times, have to be honest. We used the same Jira based boards and bug trackers. They were named Dev Test and Dev Track, if anyone is familiar with the names. We would interact with a lot of new tech, like new consoles, new video cards, new laptops, fancy new accessories like gaming mice, keyboards and stuff like that. And it was pretty cool. At least it was a nice thing to show off to your friends. Um, but apart from this, it wasn't much of a show off, to say so, because the work itself wasn't really flashy or anything like that. I wanted to also mention that we would test on consoles um, some stuff, and just wanted to make the small mention because it's funny and annoying. To see how restrictive this field was, we used to test on consoles and receive DVDs for the consoles. Each tester had his own DVD, and if one of them went missing, you'd pretty much have to stay the night there until the DVD was found. So yeah, it wasn't very fun on that aspect, but at least it was pretty rewarding from a creative and a personal level. And to me, it would be really funny if it didn't happen so often. the thing with the DVDs and staying over time. But there were some practices that were questionable at best, so I won't go into detail. If you want, you can ask for the spicy stuff afterwards, but yeah, it's just pretty much small stuff like that. Um, Ignoring the bad parts, game testing actually taught me the most that I needed to know to work in this field and in software as well. It pretty much taught me the core skills of what I have to do of this field. Um, um, it taught me to respect schedules, to how to talk to customers, how to talk to the management if need be, and how to demand based on merit. And I really liked to work as proper as I could because I couldn't demand my rights if I didn't do my work properly. And I just wanted to say my voice, to be able to have the confidence to say something. And if I did my work really good and I was really creative, I was also respected for it. And being respected meant that I was able to do the most important part of my job, which is being a professional naysayer. Uh, Naysaying is pretty much the definition you can see here. That's what Google will tell you. I learned about this term a while ago while watching a TV series, and it stuck with me because ancient cities like Rome or Alexandria would have noble houses that had their own naysayer, or but there were technical people. Each of them had a naysayer that when the person proposed something, an idea, the naysayer would say yes, but why or why not? So pretty much I had to become my own naysayer and ask why and why not while game testing. And this allowed me to boost up my creativity. But at the same time, I started asking why or why not leave the field and move on to software. Because after a while, game testing became really tedious and there weren't many opportunities. Um, I won't go into the big details, but I'll just have to note that I had a colleague which became an assistant lead because he was playing WoW, World of Warcraft, with the lead, and he was giving him gold in game, like a favor. So yes, there was a lot of nepotism, to say so, and stuff like this, which I personally didn't like and didn't take to. So I had to pretty much leave the field of game testing and departing from gaming as a planned career move because I pretty much asked myself, why not go? My main worries were the fact that I wouldn't know any code. I wouldn't know how software actually works, and because of this, I was pretty scared of it. And software is, or at least at the time, seemed much more restrictive, and it didn't seem like much fun. But this would all turn out to be pretty false because testing games made me passionate about the product as a gamer myself. But software teaches you to be your own boss and create a lot of procedures, a lot of roadmaps, and a lot of small or large steps for yourself and imposing those. Because, as I was saying before, quality assurance at its core is about delivering results. It, the journey is kind of important, but the end result needs to be the same at all times. So you can take whatever journey you want. If you deliver that result, it's perfectly okay. But in software, it it's it was a bit restrictive at the beginning due to lack of experience, to say so. The tools that I used were pretty much the same, but the product that I was using was much more different, because with games and with large intellectual properties, you had a very definite chain of command. You would take all of your instructions from the lead. He would give you some tests, assign them to you, and you would do your work. Whereas in software testing, the product is much smaller, the team is much smaller, and you pretty much have to become your own boss in order to be able to do your work. Um, I tested messaging apps so far. I tested e-learning platforms, login modules, and a lot of web-based stuff. And to be honest, with software, each piece of software tries to stand out, to do something different, to have its own functionality, because it's developed by a small team of developers, which try to give it their own uniqueness and try to differentiate it from the rest. With Whether in gaming, they pretty much have to make all the games similar and their mechanics similar and everything similar, because they want the user to be familiar with the product itself when they use it, say so, when they play a game. And they want them to be as intuitive as they can. In software, to be honest, I think I've seen this type of standardization for products only with login apps or something like this. But in any other app that I used, pretty much tried to stand out on its own with some features, some unique stuff, because it was developed by a small team and it wasn't that standardized. Um, in the game industry, they try to make everything indeed similar and familiar to the user. And so from this, I had to move on from big projects and pretty much love the code, to say so, and start learning about the apps themselves. And I think this was mainly my biggest step in software, learning to stop worrying and love the code, meaning that you should understand the app from a logic perspective, from a logic standpoint. You don't necessarily have to know programming, but you have to know the logic principles by which that app works. And if you come to learn a bit of programming, that definitely helps. Um, it it pretty much meant moving onto software, going blank slate, tabula rasa, from project to project. This is what I had to do up until now. Even working inside company on different projects, I had to do it almost from blank again and again, because the projects were very, very different between them. And it it's challenging, but it's very, very rewarding as well, because I can still flex my creative muscles, not in the same way that I used to do before, but here it's much more quiet, and it's much more how do I put it? It's a bit quaint. I like It's like going to your grandma's garden house, and that you went to when you were a kid or something like that. It's very familiar. After a few years of doing this, it pretty much works itself out whenever I think of it. Whenever I think of starting a new project, I have absolutely no emotions, no, not emotions. I'm not nervous, not anxious or anything like that, because I always know what I have to do. It's a few basic steps. from setting the test cases to setting up the Confluence pages for different topics and tabs, and also setting up Confluence pages with information that might regard the project from your perspective and that other teams like the dev team or the BA team might need. And the biggest creative muscle that I had to flex in software was the fact that you have to think very, very different in a lot of ways, but you're not testing games, not just having fun. You need to be very, very specific with your creativity. Like the software is less unpredictable, but it still has a lot of unforeseen issues, and you really need to stretch your creative muscles in order to foresee those issues and to anticipate them. What can go wrong with like a simple text box in which you write your username? Tons of stuff, from the placeholder text not disappearing to inserting special characters and see if the characters break the lines. A simple text box might also have a lot of background checks that check if your username is correct, if it doesn't have any profanity, um, if uh, if the username already exists, for example, it respects a certain code of conduct and so on. And there's lots of stuff behind deceptively simple ideas, like a simple text box. And after writing test cases for software, I also had to get familiar with coding. As I was saying earlier, I think getting a bit familiar with coding will help you a lot. With concepts like HTML and CSS, just learning the basic of them and learning to read the developer's console and actually working much closer with the developers. Um, this is something that you will never ever find in gaming, for example. No tester will work directly with the developers. Whereas in software, for example, I have to work with developers, I have to work with the business analysts, the manager, the product owners. I held presentations and a lot of demos for big teams, international teams with project owners and stuff like that, and it was pretty fun, and it allowed me to get a bit of confidence in this whole thing. And also working more closely with the developers meant that some of their skills and some of their ideas would rub onto me a bit, and I would start to learn as they learn and see the app as they see the app, especially on the logic part, because software demands much more logic than gaming, at least on a granular level. And it also meant my work would get better and better. And even if I wouldn't learn new things all the time, I'd still retain a lot of great ideas over the time. And these ideas are just pretty much small stuff, small discoveries in the field of software and how it works. Learning to, for example, test a specific task with the help of a developer helped me learn to interact with the API, with the APIs. And they also got into a lot of technical details when need be. And I think the biggest thing that helped me with software was learning not to be afraid of making mistakes or asking questions. And so I asked a lot of questions for these technical people, the dev team, And I did learn a lot. I learned a lot of specifics, and as I was saying earlier about gaming, if I did my work very good, it meant I was going to be respected for it. And it meant I could have my voice and be a naysayer and ask why shouldn't we do this feature this way, and ask what if the user does that and they want to simply take a smaller flow and not arrive at that page, and you can skip something else that might bother them. And this feedback actually count for the teams in which I worked in, and everybody listened to me. And to be honest, it's a nice feeling to be listened to, not like in this case in a conference or something like that, but actually your ideas permeating other people and influencing them. And I think, apart from the financial aspect, this is definitely one of the most rewarding aspects of being a software QA. Being able to be respected for your work, and because of this, people will ask you questions, will weigh in your opinion, will ask you for stuff, for help constantly. Like it happens to me now. I'm on a project for 1 year and a half, almost 2 years in total, being seeing the same people in general. And I was very surprised a short while ago to learn that the dev team actually developed a feature as I said it should work. They didn't even check the design team, the business analysts. I just gave them the logic for it. They implemented it, and they just thought my idea was great and did it like that. And it was a pretty neat thing. It was very great. Uh, Being able to be recognized at that skill level, especially. So this pretty much concludes my experience in the QA domain. As closing thoughts, gaming QA is at uh, at its core indeed separating art from function, because in games you'll have a lot of flashy stuff, a lot of nice artwork, nice music, inspiring stuff that you can get lost into. But we pretty much had to break all of that stuff and disregard it for what it was. And we had to go against the grain. We had to do a lot of stuff that we weren't pretty much comfortable with doing, from doing a lot of overtime to being moved from project to project without any notification or someone saying, okay, in starting in 2 weeks, you'll be on that game. No, it just happened from hour to hour. I could, this morning, I could be assigned on a project, and in the later the evening, moving on to another. And yes, settling for less, because while it was pretty fun and the crowd was really great, I had to settle for less because it wasn't that rewarding, and the possibilities and the opportunities weren't, even if I did get what I was wishing at that time. I'm saying is it as I'm thinking it now, it wouldn't have made a very big impact on my life, because I realize now that software was indeed the smarter move. Because with software, I could take ownership and initiative on stuff, doing my own work, and setting my own parameters for the work that I do. Uh, Meant that I I was really comfortable with the things that I was doing, and I had to become my own boss. After a while of getting comfortable, you need to pretty much, as a boss, start poking yourself with a stick and say, okay, you can do this better, you can do that better. Maybe you should start learning this, maybe you should start learning that, maybe you should expand on those skills. I had to step a lot out of my comfort zone, especially with software, because I had to do a lot of presentation for people from the United Kingdom, Israel, um, Canada, France, and it's being international like that meant I had to, I don't know, develop like a standard basic personality that everyone would understand and try to relate to a bit. And it was also a very good exercise for my creativity, as I said so, because in gaming you can be creative in some ways, but in software you can be creative with the image that you're projecting and with the things that you're trying to tell other people and with the ideas that you're trying to propagate. And yes, for this, it meant stepping out of my comfort zone a lot and almost constantly, and trying to offer my services for whatever demo I could, whatever presentation, so that I would become much more confident in this whole thing, in this whole process, and delivering better results and making myself understood better. Because as a personal take, one of the biggest issues in this domain is people not really understanding themselves, each other. Sorry. Uh, I've come across a lot of misunderstandings in meetings, in what what people were trying to communicate with each other, because they were either too afraid to ask a question several times, the same question several times, or I don't know, trying not to be disrespectful in any way, that it kind of created a lot of issues, just sweeping stuff under the rug. And for this, yes, I had to become a better person at communicating my ideas and making myself understood. It meant I had to be really clear and concise. And as a final thought, yes, it's much more rewarding. The software QA, initially I thought gaming would be that field, but I would move on to software and test software because it's more boring and it's more static, but it's rewarding from a financial perspective. But no, it's rewarding from a creative perspective and from a financial perspective as well. But from a lot of prospects to the job itself being really sought after nowadays, I feel really confident in this field, and I feel like it's a thing that you can do for a long while. I really hope it at least answered some questions, if not opened up new questions for the domain. Thank you.
I think we can end this session. Thank you very much, Radu, for our presentation and for your answers.